What's up, guys? I'm randomfrankp, and today we have a really nice, sleek and compact AMD PC build featuring the brand new RTX 3080 Ti graphics cards. And you guys know I love a nice small form factor PC. It's always a challenging but rewarding build process. So in this video, we'll go through the build, talk about the components, show it all off for you guys today. So the case we're going to be using for this build is going to be the Phanteks Evolv Shift 2 Air. And they sell it in both a black and an anthracite gray version, which is more metallic silver. It's the variant that I have here. And they also offer this in either a tempered glass version or the alternatively named Air version, which has the mesh side panels. It's the version I have, and it's going to be better for cooling, obviously, but if you do prefer aesthetics for your build, you can go the tempered glass route. But checking it out, I really like the design. It's a smaller footprint overall, but still allows for a lot of room on the inside to build, even fitting more recent GPUs, which are larger. It has the internal cage for building and the easy access, stands 490 millimeters tall, 170 millimeters wide, and 270 millimeters in depth. So again, it's compact, small footprint on your desk or entertainment center, but plenty of room for components. Speaking of which, our CPU is going to be the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. It's got 8 cores, 16 threads, base frequency is 3.8 GHz out of the box, and turbo clock speed 4.7 GHz, making this a really powerful chip for the price. Really good bang for your buck. Now, it does not come with a stock cooler, so we're going to be going with an EK 120mm AIO, and EK is very well known for their water cooling components. So I was definitely interested in checking out their all-in-one cooling solution, plus our case only supports a 120mm radiator. For the GPU, like I said, the newly released RTX 3080 Ti, and believe it or not, this is the first time NVIDIA ever supplied me with a graphics card, so I'm definitely pumped to check it out and see the boost of performance we get versus something like the 3080 that I currently use. And that'll all be going on my Gigabyte B550i Aorus Pro AX motherboard. It's an ITX form factor, has built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so for the case, it's going to be an ideal fit. And ITX motherboards are usually dual channel for RAM, so I have two 16GB sticks of HyperX Predator RGB RAM, giving us 32 gigs total here. These are clocked at 3200 MHz. I'll also be using a 1TB stick of the Saturn Rocket NVMe PCIe 4.0 M.2 internal SSD, giving us a mouthful, blazing speeds, and I've used these Saturn Rockets in multiple builds in the past. They are great. Then lastly, for our power supply is going to be a Corsair SF750. And the key with this is the fact that these ITX builds need an SFX power supply. So here, the form factor is going to be much smaller, but still modular. And at 750 watts, it's going to provide ample power to run everything we have. All right, we're going to get it set up with a little build montage. All right, so the build's all done inside our Phanteks Evolv Shift 2 Air case with the Ryzen 7 5800X and our RTX 3080 Ti. And this is obviously not a dedicated review and benchmark video of the GPU. There's just, quite frankly, a massive lack of interest in that kind of stuff right now, and rightfully so, but more so a video just fitting those components inside a nice, compact ITX build like this. So I'll talk you through kind of the process and some of the things I wanted to bring up with a case like this. And we'll get into, like, thermals and stuff in a minute as well. First off, just obviously kind of point out to you, with it being a vertical build, one of the things that you always kind of see with these type of cases is either the motherboard and stuff being mounted 90 degrees to the right up top or on the bottom, like we saw with the, the NZXT H1, which is always kind of odd, right? And this has it up top. So what you do is you press on the top sort of grill of the case and it'll open up, and that's where all your IO is pretty much for your motherboard. So everything you want to plug in, even like, your GPU and stuff, it all gets connected to the top of the case and then funnels out this little cutout on the back. And that's not a big deal, obviously, but it is just a minor annoyance having to go through the top side versus the back side like we've always been used to. Now, it does mean our motherboard is going to be mounted 90 degrees to the right, as you saw, so the RAM's on the bottom, but that also plays a role into how our AIO gets mounted. So with this case only supporting a 120mm radiator, it's not ideal, because a lot of times with your AIO, you want to avoid your tubing and stuff being vertical. That's gonna just, pose a lot of potential problems with the motor dying out, air pockets and stuff. So in this case, and actually with this AIO, one thing they do, which is kind of cool to see, is they're very flexible with how they have the tubes. So they can pretty much go, not a full 360, but you can move the tubes like a 270-degree rotation. So I did have to kind of maneuver them to go out and then down to the little gutter, because that little cutout there is where you kind of, put the tubes in so it's not butting up against the panel. So will this cause an issue over time? I'm not 100% sure, because it's not a given that it's going to, die. But again, the fact that this AIO is very flexible with the tubing is definitely a good thing. And like I said, it gets, routed kind of behind here in the cutout just for better, efficiency in cable management, which is one thing this case is absolutely great at. Tons of mounting points, tons of little spots to hide cables, route them through. There's grommets. So Phanteks did a really, really good job of cable management here. Very impressed. All right, so flipping it around now for our GPU, a few things to bring up. One of the odd things this case does is it only includes a PCIe 3.0 riser card. I feel like it should have been 4.0, right? Because this is a modern case. It came out in the last 6 months. So why not include the 4.0 instead of PCIe 3.0? It's not going to be a huge deal because you can go into the BIOS and set it to 3.0. So compatibility probably won't be a big issue for a lot of people. But again, you would have liked to have seen that, included, or at least given, inside the box in addition to the 3.0. Another thing I did was with the actual bracket and, the mount that it comes with inside, I flipped it around, and they give you the option to with this one screw and how it gets mounted inside the case. So stock, this card would have been facing, turned around the other way. And that's, again, not going to be a big deal to a lot of people. But with these, the newer 3000 card lineup, it has an intake on one side and an exhaust on the other. So this would have been blowing the exhaust into the case versus out. So now with the mesh side panel, I mounted it reverse, and now the exhaust is going out the mesh side panel, which I think is going to be better for our temperature, obviously. And I feel like that was proven pretty well, because I saw on average 86 degrees Celsius. I played 2 or 3 games on different titles, probably benchmarked it for close to like 2 hours on my end. And I feel like 86, given all the power and hardware inside here, that's pretty damn good for temps. And again, with the mesh side panel, obviously, tons of room to breathe here, much better versus if this was a tempered glass side panel, it would be choking pretty significantly. Other thing you may have saw when I was doing the montage was on the bottom, I mounted an additional exhaust fan. And it does allow for a 120 or a 140mm fan. And I just put one on the bottom to, again, help dissipate a lot of that heat and stuff that's, going on inside the case. But even here, like you can see for yourself with the 3080 Ti, it is a relatively larger card, but there is still a lot of room in here if you do have a bigger card. Now this case would probably also benefit from an aftermarket card, one that has, 2 or 3 fans on the one side versus the intake and outtake, but still, enough size. Just really good job from Phanteks implementing the vertical orientation like this, but allowing for bigger and stronger cards potentially with all this room. So I talked about real quick, just the temperatures here, really not bad for the GPU. In Battlefield, I was getting, I believe it was like close to 160 FPS, which is, on par with what I expected to see. I believe with the 3080, I was getting close to like 145 on average. So the thing with these GPUs is the price to performance versus a 3080, it's just not going to be worth it. It's really not. It's more powerful, yes. It's kind of closer to the 3090 in that regard, but for the price jump, not worth it. I believe on average, it was somewhere around 10, like a 10% increase in FPS, but the 3080 Ti is going to be better more so for things like rendering, like that more so kind of workflow versus gaming. So it's really hard to recommend this upgrade right now with the shortages and really that's the lack of visual boost you get for that price. Kind of tying it back around, this is a really poorly organized video and I apologize for it. With our AIO and our CPU, I was getting 81 degrees average Celsius, which again, for a 120 millimeter, in this case with the 3800X, I feel like that's also very good. So I went into this, wanting to build a nice, powerful build with a small footprint, but my big concern, again, was the temperatures, because a lot of times with the ITX cases, that's the big downfall, is temps. But with the mesh side panels, I think Phanteks did a really, really good job. So again, just more so a build video, but if you do want to see a dedicated review of this case, let me know. If you want to see more ITX builds, let me know. Just wanted to get this out there, show off some new hardware, and really it was just a thing for me to kind of do in my free time. I wanted to see, like I said, if I can get some really powerful hardware in a nice ITX build like this. So I had a good time. ITX builds always pose a fun challenge, which is why I like doing them. So guys, that'll wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed. I'll put all the hardware if you want to check it out in the description down below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.